We think at this breakfast table, just initial thoughts, Chris, that we've seen the last out of Tom Brady.
I would be shocked if he didn't play football anymore. And it's based on a couple of different things. 1 year ago, I was at the Super Bowl in Tampa. And I spent a good amount of time with Tom Brady Sr. before the game. And he gave me great insight into Tom that, no one else has. And he told me he was concerned about his son, not his health, but he was concerned, and he mentioned something that Nate brought up. He said, Tom is so addicted to playing football that I don't know when he's going to quit. Like, unless he got hurt, he said, I'm not trying to wish any injury on him, I don't see him stopping playing football. Now, you go through another grind of the whole offseason, you go through the season, and it's hard to always answer right after the season. But this is a guy, like Nate said, he's found out what his gift is. And he wants to keep doing it as long as he can. But as you had mentioned, there's really no difference between winning 7 Super Bowls or 8. There is no difference. So there is no goal out there. So I believe that right now in his career, this is probably the most important soul searching that he's going to do. He knew he couldn't come back to New England. A lot of people don't realize this. Belichick didn't even offer him a contract. Mm-hmm. So he knew he couldn't come back there. Now he has all the options and has everything, the shiny toy in Tampa, has that worn off, Peter?
That's the question, right? So last year was the honeymoon period. It was this incredible story. This year wasn't perfect for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I will say that short of winning the Super Bowl, if you're going to retire on your own terms, wasn't yesterday perfect? Wasn't it perfect? The comeback, there was a feeling of emotions, like, hey, we're going to go just short. Brady played great. The Buccaneers showed all that fight, all that. To me, that's kind of a cool walk-off moment, short of winning a Super Bowl. I don't know if you could ask for it any better way than being down 27-3 and giving everyone one last ride of he's going to do it again, he's going to do it again. He didn't. Stafford made an incredible pass to Kupp, and they lost, and Brady really never got a shot to answer. I will look at Tampa, though. I think Arians was a good match for year one. I'm not sure if Arians is coming back. He's 70 years old. Is he coming? I don't know if Leftwich and Brady are the future of Tampa. And also look at the roster. Look at what Tampa has this offseason to deal with. I mean, what's he coming back to? So you lose all these guys, and Godwin, of course, signed the franchise deal. He's probably finding another route. I don't know. It was great year one. Year two was awesome. He was tremendous. It's nothing about him. It's about the rest of the supporting parts. And, are we really going to do, okay, then he goes to San Francisco. Is he going to go to Denver? Are we going to do this again? I don't know.
Is there a world that's the thing where it's like, you know what, you guys are going through a transition, you do you, like, it would be a trade, right? Is what you're left on his deal.
It'd be a trade, yeah, because he's under contract. But, I don't know. I thought it kind of ended nicely yesterday. And Brady's all class, and Stafford had his moment.
See, you thought it ended nicely.
I know.
And I did, and we all did. For Brady, losing the divisional round, bleeding, and getting a personal foul flag, I don't think that's for him. This is a fiend, an absolute fiend, and I think this whole thing about him, 45 and 46, I think he gets off on it. I think that makes his whole world and his whole life, and all that stuff about it's my favorite ring is the next one. It's not only that he is addicted to it, I just think it's like he is so unbelievably focused and obsessed with just taking it further, and I'm going to go to 11 Super Bowls and 12. He led the league in passing. He's got a live arm. He's healthy. His knees are great. His shoulder's great. He's fine. Why? And if he has to leave Tampa, I think he would do it. I think that he's got this sick obsession.
It's okay. I haven't.
Sick.
I can't play like him.
No, but I think the 50-year-old thing is not a joke. I think, Chris, you said you'd be shocked. I'd be shocked too.
Yeah.
The Tampa stuff is compelling, and there's two questions: stay with Tampa or stay in the league.
Yeah.
Tampa, I'm not sure about. Stay in the league, I do think he would team jump. I think it's already been done. He doesn't have that clean play for one team his whole career thing. Sure, if there's a team that's got a coach that I like with some offensive players and some draft picks, you want the league's leading passer and the greatest football player ever? I'm in. I think he could be on 3 or 4 teams. I really do. I don't think it's over.
It's an easier move for him to do that than an Aaron Rodgers because he's already done it. He's he's changed the uniform. And he won a Super Bowl doing it as well. But both of these, when I sat down with Aaron and I asked him about his future, I said, do you know in your heart right now what you're doing? And he brought up he's like, everyone tells me you're crazy to walk away from the game if you can still play at a level. Tom Brady, I mean, these are the two that we're talking about are the most valuable players in our National Football League. Retirement, to me, is off the table for both of them.
Look, I think Rodgers is the same way.
Yeah.
And I think Brady especially, with the whole upbringing and the 6th-round pick and everything, he's obsessed with getting the most out of his ability and leaving nothing in the tank.
His parents aren't getting any younger.
No.
His son is now going to go into high school next year. You saw the box when they showed it yesterday.
Yeah, that's fun.
He hasn't been around for much of that stuff. It's not just can Brady throw a football anymore. There's a lot of things that go into these decisions, and I feel like the way he's been talking the last few weeks has been very different than recent years.
I don't think him and Aaron Rodgers are in the same headspace. They might be on the same planet, but I don't think they operate the same.
What's the difference?
The resentment that Aaron Rodgers has towards the organization wasn't going to go away with winning games. All right? They've won the last 3 years like no other team ever. But what did it get them? Tom Brady, he's content. He's done. He's made the big move. He left Kraft. He left Belichick. He proved that he could win. Belichick and them didn't even make the playoffs. Got smashed this year by Buffalo. So that myth, who's more important?
Yeah.
Brady went to Tampa Bay and clarified that. I believe that he can walk away with a clear conscience. Aaron Rodgers, if he walked away from the game, man, you talking about torment. There's nothing worse than as a man getting late in life and realizing I didn't do something a certain way, and now I can't right that. There is no coming back from playing that National Football League, and there is no job that brings the adrenaline, the rush, the control. Everything else is what we saw this weekend in those two guys.
Yeah.
And to say, oh, no, give that to someone else, these guys aren't wired that way.
I was comparing it just from a physical standpoint. They both have it physically, so why would you walk away? I think Tom Brady probably feels that same way. He's a made man, but in order to keep him away from his son going to high school and his daughter and all the time and his parents and all of that, it has to be a good situation. The question is, it has to be worth it for him to do that. I mean, Aaron has something to prove still. He does. He has to go prove that. Tom, if he's going to keep doing what he loves, what he's a fiend for, it's got to be the perfect scenario. And he's got the situation where he can sort of call that shot, maybe, potentially, if that's not in Tampa.
Right.
I don't know if that's Tampa because of the transition year and that full screen is terrifying.
Just a little insight. Guys don't retire for their kids. Guys don't retire to spend more time with the family.
Yeah.
All right? They say all that as the soundbite in the conference.
Why do guys retire?
It's BS.
Because they can't do it anymore.
Okay, but I'm saying, so both of these guys can do it. So can we agree they're not going to retire? Neither of them.
Tom Brady's in a different situation.
Okay.
He's a made person. Aaron Rodgers is a villain. You can't quit being a villain.
But if guys retire because they can't play anymore, why would Tom Brady retire?
I'm saying he might retire.
You think he might?
Yeah.
No way.
He's got nothing else to prove. It's over.
He had nothing else to prove last year. This year.
Yeah, he did. He won.
This
He
year?
wanted to do it again.
This year he had something to prove. Now he doesn't. All of a sudden he just got bloodied and lost in this awful game in his home crowd.
It's done. He's done.
I feel like now more than anything he's like, I have something to prove.
I think he has to
do it.
play till he's 45 because he's terrified that someday someone will play till they're 46. And he has to be the greatest of all time.
It's fair.
Yeah, he sees the difference between 8 and 7 rings, doesn't he?
Huge difference. I think he thinks it's completely, which is asinine. But that's Tom Brady. He's sick.